Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm Keith Downey, your host, and joining us, of course, is Debbie Georgianni and Adam Bly for The Next Right Thing. And you may have seen the headlines. Charlie Kirk's death has stunned the nation, but what's even more surprising is the ripple effect. Stories are just pouring in of fallen away Catholics and other Christians saying this tragedy has shaken them, even bringing them back to Mass for the first time in years. Debbie and Adam are here to talk about what some are calling the Charlie Kirk effect. Good morning, Debbie and Adam.
Good morning, Keith. Thank you so much for having us on The Next Right Thing. Also, too, we're going to open up the phone lines if you have something to say about this. There's just a lot of activity, and it's been happening nonstop on social media. And so if there's something you want to share, we always want to hear from our Morning Joy listeners at 877-757-9424. Tim is ready to answer the calls, 877-757-9424. But Adam, Keith touched upon it, this Charlie Kirk effect. And yes, there's a Church Pop article that Tim is posting in the chats and the show notes for our Morning Joy listeners. It's very interesting what's happening. You know, people always want to find out, you know, what good can come out of such a tragic, such a, you know, horrific event. Well, we're seeing it. We're seeing this huge revival going across all belief systems, you know, especially in the Catholic Church, our Protestant brothers and sisters as well. And it's really quite interesting. We're experiencing it here. Obviously, Arizona is a bit of the center, you know, hub because of Turning Point, his organization, and this is where he resides, is in Arizona, and we're seeing it at masses. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's standing room only. So people are really feeling called to come back to the faith. They're feeling called to go to church. Why? Because he was Charlie Kirk was really an example of being proud to be a Christian. And, you know, I understand there's stories going on all over the internet, Adam, about like Candace Owens and others are saying that Charlie Kirk was praying the rosary and going to Catholic Mass. He was kind of working his way towards possibly the Catholic faith. He was an evangelical Christian. But Adam, here's the bottom line with all of this. You know, you and I have been saying this for many years now, and we say it over and over again. And sometimes I think that our Morning Joy listeners, our Spirit World listeners, the Take Two listeners are probably like, why do they keep repeating it? Because it's true. We constantly say to everyone listening on Catholic radio, please get in a state of grace, stay in a state of grace, because you don't know when the good Lord is going to call you home. I don't think Charlie Kirk thought he was going to die that day, right? So you've got to be ready. And people are starting to wake up and realize that it's a relationship with Jesus that's most important, and getting right with God, and people are being called back to church. So if that's the good and wonderful thing that came out of this absolute tragic situation and events, I would say that it was so needed, because the world was falling numb and in autopilot, and, you know, turning away from God. And now there's this surge of a desire to get back to God. What do you say, Adam?
Well, Deb, and I'm a bit under the weather, so forgive me. I think there's a few layers to why people might be responding. So at the very basic level, of course, there's that old adage, there's no atheist in foxholes, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Meaning when mortality becomes real for us in some way, we tend to turn to God, because when you reach your limit of control in life, of
Mm-hmm.
things that you can control and deal with and stop, you have to turn to God, or just fall into it, I suppose. Right. But the mind naturally turns to God and says, I can't defeat death. I can't control everything.
Right.
And so I need God.
Well, Adam, can I stop you right there for a second? Charlie Kirk died September 10th. We had September 11th, the day after. Okay, so everybody was remembering 9/11. So you had this double impact, right? And the same thing happened after 9/11. Do you remember the churches were packed for 6 months?
Yeah.
6 months the churches were packed. So go ahead, keep going because you're on to something.
So I think that's one level. Another level that I personally, experienced, the videos of it, of the actual shooting, the details of it, that the news, of course, wisely limits those because it's traumatic to see it. I accidentally saw it when it was first flying around on the internet, before I even knew it was a headline. That is very sobering. Just actually seeing somebody be killed, going from healthy, chatting, young adult to a second later dying, it brings mortality into focus for all of us. And of course, none of us know how long we have, right? There can be medical issues. My father, the way he died, it started with a blood clot just out of nowhere. My uncle, the way he died, was an aneurysm. He was telling a joke to his friends and starting to laugh and fell over at the kitchen table. We don't know how long we have, but the mind naturally is in denial about that, right? And that's basically okay. Like, you have to get through the day. You can't sit at home biting your nails and worrying about how long you have. You have to get about the business of living.
Right.
But when we get reminded of mortality like that, whether it's 9/11, whether it's seeing somebody being shot, you naturally kind of say like, oh, wait, maybe I need to get myself in order here. And as you were saying, get in a state of grace, stay in a state of grace. The idea behind the state of grace is, instead of worrying about this abstract end times and, will the world end it someday and will I be alive to see it? And that keeps it at arm's length. It's some future event that vaguely may happen someday, and I'll basically deal with it when it happens. That's a way of kind of pushing off our own mortality in our imagination. When our mortality becomes personal and immediate, you realize that just be ready for your own end times.
Exactly.
Every day. Not in an anxious way. Just get right with God, live in a way that's pleasing to God. If you're Christian, if you're a Catholic Christian, learn God's laws, learn God's way that he asked us to live, and just live that way. It's freeing. The Ten Commandments are there to reduce conflict and destruction in the family and in the community. They're not there about being a killjoy and ruining your fun in life. The fruits of sin is suffering. So, the idea is stay in friendship with God so that when the time comes, you'll be spiritually prepared. And
exactly.
And once you're there, then you kind of can let go of that anxiety.
Right.
Because
you can start living.
Yeah, you can start living. Like, if you truly have faith, you can let go of that anxiety and get about the business of living and enjoying life.
Absolutely. Amen to that. When I said at the beginning of this segment, I said this is so needed. What I meant by that is we need to get woken up. We need to start living. And Jesus said, I came for you to have life and to have it to the full, to live, to absolutely live your best spiritual life. It is so important. But here's the thing. We shouldn't have to have a 9/11 happen to us, or a war, or Charlie Kirk dying, or someone else, dying who was a good and faithful person. We shouldn't have to have that to wake us up. It is our responsibility to live our best and most confident and most pleasing to God life on this side of the veil. I cannot stress it enough. And I have to tell you something, Adam, being in Catholic radio for 15 years, I love it. And I feel so incredibly blessed to be able to have this kind of platform and have this kind of ministry work to be able to catechize. But I got to be honest with you. I think we're overcomplicating things. I've thought it for many years. And I understand that you have to have a lot of head knowledge about things to really understand the faith better. I get that. And I understand that it's important to go deeper. That is so true. But the bottom line is it's a relationship with Jesus, and it's like St. Thomas Aquinas said, we came from God, we should be heading back to God. So our our quest, our desire, our journey should all be step by step getting closer to God on this side of the veil. That's what it's all about. It's not about, learning more and gaining more knowledge in this area or that area, or achieving more, or being more successful, material, being more with material belongings and things like that. It's all nonsense. That stuff's going to all fade away. It's all about where we're at with God. And I keep saying it, but it's like some people are like, that's too easy. Exactly. That's God. That's how easy it is. And that's the amazing part of it. And if I pray that this Charlie Kirk effect stays with people. I hope it doesn't have the same effect as 9/11, where after 6 months, everybody just goes back to their life and does their same old thing, and they're hanging out at the sports bars on Sundays and doing all that. I pray that doesn't happen. I pray that it is a revival. But here's an interesting question coming in from YouTube. Adam, let me just check the time here. I want to make sure, because Tim's right on top of things. I got a minute. Okay. We have a question that came in on YouTube. Can a non-Catholic be considered for sainthood? No, it's for the Catholic Church. That's a good question, though, because the interesting thing is, apparently, according to these stories, he was very close to coming into the Catholic Church, in the sense that he was very interested in it, praying the rosary and going to Mass. There's been reports that he attended this church in Scottsdale, Arizona, quite often, a Catholic church. But no, it's for good and faithful Catholics in good standing, and it's in the Catholic Church. It's for Catholics. So, but what we can say is that, based on his life, he lived a very virtuous and good and faithful Christian life, and that is a beautiful and pleasing thing to God. What do you say, Adam?
Yeah. So the other thing about martyrdom, just to be clear specifically, it's somebody who goes to their death out, and that death is brought about by hatred of Christ, hatred of the faith. So basically dying for the faith, dying for Jesus, right? Making a choice and facing that. So, one could probably discuss that and say, like, well, was he defending the faith? Was he dying for the faith in this instance? But as you said, Deb, the people that are put up for sainthood by the Catholic Church are Catholics in good standing.
Yep. Okay, we're going to hold it there. We'll come back. And please join us by phone if you can, 877-757-9424. Okay, Keith, take it away.
All righty. Real quickly, just want to share once again, if you're going to have any plans for next year, if you're going to go on a trip, but you just don't know where yet, make it with the Guadalupe Radio Network. They're going to be taking a lot of people on a pilgrimage, a Seine River cruise to be exact, in France, visiting all of the incredible sacred sites. We love our sacred sites here on Morning Joy. And more importantly, you're going to be joined by some really great people like Debbie Georgianni and Father Sam Medley of the Sold Community, plus Dave Palmer and Sean Rice and Toya Hall. So many great people. Just head over to grnonline.com to find more information. But coming up next, we are still talking all about the Charlie Kirk effect and how it's bringing many more people back to the faith. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Morning Joy, where truth matters.
Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm Keith Downey, your host, and welcome back to the final segment of this morning's The Next Right Thing with Debbie Georgianni and Adam Bly. And they're all talking about what many are calling the Charlie Kirk effect. How his sudden passing was not only shocked the nation, but also moving fallen away Catholics and other Christians to return to church. Debbie and Adam, over to you.
Thanks so much, Keith. And let's just hope that it sticks, this new understanding and revival and this desire to get back to God. Adam, real quickly, Keith mentioned that here at Guadalupe Radio Network, we're going to be taking this fabulous river cruise the Seine River Cruise in April of 2026 with Father Sam Medley. Now, Father Sam's coming up next with Mornings with Medley. And I would really suggest folks to think about going on this river cruise. And I'll tell you why, because I know Father Sam well enough to tell you that he's all about us getting closer to God. That's what I'm all about. That's what we're all about here on Catholic Radio. And if you want a life-changing experience, consider doing that and really having something kind of jolt you into that next level. Because what I am concerned about, Adam, and it happened with 9/11, out of fear, people race back to God, right? Out of fear, when they, like you said, they don't know what's next, what's going to happen, the uncertainty, what's ahead, the anxiety goes, sky high. So out of fear, they run back to God. But that is such an entry level with God. I mean, we know that the God wants all of us, and he wants us to develop spiritually, and he wants us to mature and advance. And so we have to move to those next levels. We have to move to that greater understanding, that deeper, perspective of God as best we possibly can grasp on this side of the veil. What do you say to that, Adam? Because one of the things that I think happens is, like you said, we run back to God, and then it just kind of fades away. The world just takes over, and it kind of, God goes back on the shelf.
Yeah. So, again, when we run out of things, when the rope runs out and we no longer have any way to control things in life, we tend to turn to God. That's one version of turning to God through fear. Another one is, if you do have some faith and you realize that God is also justice, right? Mercy and justice, and you don't want to be punished for being disobedient. That's kind of turning to God out of fear too. And those are considered like, it's kind of like a starting point, but it's not a good place to stay at all. It's considered the very beginning of a spiritual life. The Bible talks about fear of the Lord. It's not fear of the Lord like God's mean and I'm scared of him. Right. It's fear of God's justice, which has to be fulfilled. There's many scriptures about that every penny will be paid for the bad actions and the things we do to hurt others in life, and various ways that we can disobey God. So, that will give you a burst of like, okay, while it's still real, I'm afraid, and so I do this kind of to assuage God, or maybe to feel like I have some control in life. But as you said, Deb, regular life goes on. Bad things don't happen for a few days, and pretty soon the mind says, oh, okay, everything is basically stable and it's no longer scary, so now I don't need God anymore. The spiritual life hopefully progresses to doing things because they please God, as opposed to doing things because we don't want to get bonked on the nose by God.
Right.
Or sometimes we do things because we want a cookie, right? Yeah. I promise God, if I survive this cancer, I'll be good and I'll go to church, and I'm trying to get something from God. Hopefully the idea is you mature past the fear, you mature past bargaining and wanting something from God, and you simply do things because they make God happy.
Absolutely.
Because you genuinely want God to be pleased with you.
Yeah. Because
you realize the love and the amount that he has given you, you want to return that love.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, what I agree, Deb. Hopefully we take this opportunity and build on it as opposed to just dropping it in 2 weeks.
Right. So we have this segment. It's called The Next Right Thing for that purpose. And by the way, I just want to let Morning Joy listeners know, apparently a lot of people are using this segment title all around in different arenas. I've been hearing it lately on social media, The Next Right Thing, do the next right thing. So we've got it here on Morning Joy, The Next Right Thing. So Adam and I believe strongly, right, Adam, that the challenge for everyone to do the next right thing is when you see these brand new faces at church. When you see them, you'll see them because everybody has their set pews they sit in. Everybody has the group around them that they know are always at church. Go and go up to them, welcome them, offer your Christian help to them, and say, is there anything you need? I can see that you're new here. Are you new here? Get to know them. We need to really go out there and start to bring more souls into a relationship with Jesus. And the way we do that is being Christ to one another. Look at what Mother Teresa said. So this is the opportunity for us to really stand up and be the best Christians we can be, because there's a lot of new people inquiring. If you look at that Church Pop article, people are calling other fellow Christians, other Catholics, and saying, I have never been to church. Can you take me to church? Oh my goodness, that's amazing. I would love for that to happen, for my cell phone to go off nonstop saying, can you take me to church? I would rent a bus and take everybody to church. We've got to be there and be welcoming to others. What do you say, Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the last observations I wanted to make, Deb, looking at all this, like one of the things I noticed is Charlie Kirk's social media accounts have just blown up. Since this happened. So, his Instagram went from like 7 million to 12 million in just a handful of days. Yeah, his TikTok 7, 8, 9, 2 million more. YouTube about 1 million more. So why is that? Super brief anecdote. When I was in graduate school and we did different rotations of learning therapy methods. You do a year, learning cognitive behavioral, and a year learning short-term psychodynamic, and whatever it is. And you do that a number of times. One thing that has always stuck with me, my main teacher in graduate school said one day, you have to pick a perspective and go deep with it, and that will actually be able to lead to some change for the person and something useful and real progress. If you try to be eclectic and just do everything and do a little bit of everything, basically you'll be spinning your wheels and you really won't make much progress. I think part of what is attractive and what makes people curious about Charlie Kirk is he picked a perspective and he went deep with it and committed to it. And in a sense, no matter what we're talking about, no matter what type of perspective we're talking about, as human beings, when we see somebody standing up for a particular belief and sincerely believing in it and putting that forward and putting themselves on the line in a sense, because he faced opposition constantly and was happy to debate. Like, that's the beautiful thing about open debate in a democracy, as we get to discuss. That's attractive to us, and I think that's making people curious now. Who is this guy? What did he say? And so millions of people, what did he stand for? Because he so clearly stood for something.
Yes.
And so that is attractive to the world, and it makes us curious.
Right.
And, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and Keith just weighed in and said that some of his videos are reaching almost 100 million views. So the impact that Charlie Kirk is having, and you're spot on, Adam. If you look at any of the videos, the clips or the reels or the long video of his interviews or his debates, it's amazing. I mean, he never wavered, Adam. Never wavered. He spoke the truth, and he didn't. And he even said in some of his interviews, he wasn't concerned what people thought of him. He had to speak the truth, and Jesus was at the center of it. I loved it. What do you say? Real quickly, Adam, we got to send it back to Keith.
Yeah, I mean, I saw one comment, one clip of him, and they said, what do you want to be remembered for when you die? And he said, standing up for my faith.
Oh, wow. Okay, wow. Back to Keith for more of Morning Joy.
Powerful. Wow. Well, hey, this is just a reminder for you to tune in this weekend for more Debbie Georgianni and Adam Bly on The Spirit World this Saturday at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. And hey, for those that are just joining us now, I'm very excited to let you know that Nick De La Torre is going to be joining the Morning Joy team daily starting next week. Morning Joy is growing. Morning Joy is just becoming this big entity, and it's very exciting that we get to grow with you. So stay tuned for that. But hey, coming up, in the wake of recent mass shootings, how do we begin to treat the trauma, make sense of the violence, and find hope in Christ? Well, stay with us. Father Sam Medley from the SALT community is up next. We'll be right back right here on Morning Joy, where truth matters.